It's always such a joy to be with you. So grateful to be here today. Thank you for having me. I sure have enjoyed the service so far, and I hope I can add something to it. Late in life, Thomas Edison. Well, let's go back earlier in life. A lot of times we talk about the successes of someone like Thomas Edison. But long before his successes, he had over 1,000 failed experiments. That's a lot. But he persisted, he kept going. Late in life, he was extremely successful, had a huge factory, and they were not only making new things and continuing to do experiments and being so creative and solving so many problems, but of course they were producing the things they had already discovered. And he had, I think, just sat down for dinner. I'm not exactly sure, but he was called to the factory, and there was this huge fire. The whole factory was just engulfed in fire. And of course, this is a factory where a lot of chemicals and various components are, that they use to create things were in. So it was, it was a fire that was not going to be easily contained. And of course, because of all the chemicals and all, it looked a certain way. And people were shocked when he turned to his son and said, "Go get your mother and all her friends, because she'll never see a fire like this again." And he meant it. And they came and they looked and they were in awe of what was happening. And people asked him, why aren't you devastated? And he said, this is the kind of thing that helps an old man not get bored. He borrowed $1 million from Henry Ford. And within just a month or two, they were back at 60% of operation, and I think in 6 months to a year, they were exceeding what they had done before the fire. I have a problem that I want to share with you today, and this problem of mine is a thief that robs me of more joy, I think, probably than any other problem in my life, any other issue. And it relates to the quote you read. Would you mind reading that again from Michael J. Fox? Do you have it with you back there? Yeah. It has a lot to do with expectation. So I'd like to, it's a perfect quote, and you always pick out the best things. But you share that with us again?
Mm-hmm. Yes, he said, "My happiness grows in direct proportion to my acceptance, and in inverse proportion to my expectation."
Yes, thank you so much. That is definitely my problem. And so when I am happy, when I am joyful, when I am at peace, it's because I'm accepting, because I am grateful, because I am loving my life, my gifts, my blessings. And when I am not at peace, when I am wanting more, it's often because of expectation. Today I want to talk to you about this concept that I have recommitted myself to, that that has caused a new awakening for me in recent times. And that is this Latin phrase of Amor, Fati. Love of fate. Nietzsche came up with this, and many have developed it, since then. But rather than fighting what is, or rather than even in my gratitude for what is wanting more, or especially in those times when I want things to be other than what they are, it's a paradigm shift, a change in my mindset that says, I am not going to just accept what is. I am going to embrace it, and I am going to love it. Love of fate. I wonder how many of us in here actually love our fate.
Sometimes.
It's not an easy practice. I don't think it's a natural practice for most of us. Human nature wants things to be other than what they are. But to actually love our fate. Now, to me, this word fate is very fraught. And I have no idea what level of agency or free will we have, what is fated, what is determined. You probably can imagine someone like me leans towards the side of free will. I believe in my agency. I believe I have the ability to make free decisions. And I base this mostly on what happens inside of me. Because I have not been all that successful in changing anything outside of me or in the world, but I think I have had success in changing what happens in here. And that makes me think I do have a certain amount of agency. I do have a certain amount of free will. But I today want to just put that aside, because you may feel very differently. You may believe something extremely differently than that, and that's fine. I have no problem with that. But for me, believing that I have agency, believing that I have free will, and I can decide not what happens, but how I respond to what happens, gives me hope, gives me courage, gives me agency, gives me purpose. And so Rumi said, when he was young, he tried to change the world. When he got older, he tried to change himself, and it made all the difference. And I feel that very similarly. And this love of fate is accepting or embracing or loving what is, because what is. Let's cover that first, okay? Let's say that you want to change what is. Some of you do, right? I think somebody talked about justice, right? Social justice and a food bank and, all the things we've talked about this morning. Is the world how you would have it be? Change needs to be made, doesn't it? But even in those things we feel like we should change, we must start with what is. It helps no one to deny what is or pretend it doesn't exist, or to say that, it's contrary to my will, so I'm just not even going to acknowledge it. I'm going to ignore these things. We have to start with what is, because what is. So starting with that, knowing we can't start climbing from a rung on the ladder we're not on, we can't take a first step from a place we're not, is accepting that things are as they are. We don't have to accept that they have to remain that way, especially as it relates, again, to what goes on inside of us and our actions, our responses. We cannot control what happens. We can only control how we respond to it. And trying to control what happens is the biggest waste of time and the biggest thief of the joy of life. And I'm confessing to you today that I am guilty of that. Now, I will say that I have spent a lot of my life not doing that. But 1 minute of doing that is a waste of time, is a waste of life, this precious gift that we have so little of. And so I am determined to look at life as a mystery, knowing that I cannot, not only can I not control it, I can't even understand it. So I'm going to accept it. I'm going to embrace it. And in the love of that mystery, I'm going to be transformed. Now, I say this not to brag, but if you think I do, that's fine. I don't really care. But this morning, my book, The Night Of, is #1 on Amazon. It was #1 yesterday. Yep. This is on the end of a week of really big promotion. A lot of work went into it by a lot of people. And it was successful? Or was it? Because oftentimes success is defined by the expectation, right? So I did start out the week hopeful that it would reach number 1. I was hoping that would be one of the things that happened. But what if I had said, I won't be satisfied until it's number 1 everywhere? Not just Amazon, but Barnes & Noble and all the overseas bookstores and on the New York Times and USA Today. And then this wonderful thing that has happened would suddenly not be so wonderful, would it? I would be like disappointed. And that's what I'm talking about today. The times in which good, great, wonderful things have happened for me and to those around me, and I want more. And it very often relates to expectation. It very often relates to what I wanted to happen, what I thought would happen. That's a desire to control. And all of this is related to control. It's related to, am I really wanting to control everything and determine my destiny? Or am I going to take actions and do the best I can in every situation, give it my all, and as the Tao Te Ching says, step back. The master does his work and then steps back. We don't do our work and then make sure it turns out like we want it to. So as you can imagine, to get to number 1 in Amazon, that requires moving a lot of books, right? A lot of units moved this week. As I watched that number go up, was I grateful with every step of the way? And was I, when I saw a number, wanting it to be a higher number? Wanting it to be more? Am I loving my fate? Am I embracing it? Or am I wanting something to be other than what is? So that's why I shared that with you today. It doesn't matter what my book is ranked. And I have 49 or something other books that aren't ranked nearly like that. It's to say, what is my expectation? And that it's actually possible for when really good things happen to not be satisfied, to not embrace them, to not be grateful for them. How much more so is it when it's a challenging thing? When it's things we really don't want happening. What about an abject failure? What about I put out a book and it's like crickets? No one reads it. No one likes it. No one reviews it. No, it's not ranking. It's not. Do I love that? Do I embrace that? Do I accept that? Do I say, this, like all things, is my teacher? And when it's, the more challenging it is, the better education I get. The teacher has more valuable lessons when it's challenging. Now I want you to think about right now the things that you consider to be challenges in your life. We all have them, right? I mean, I can't imagine that anybody here does not have at least some challenge happening. Do you love it? Can you imagine loving it? Can you imagine saying, Amor, Fati, I love my fate? I'm going to tell you what happens when we do. This is my experience. There is a freedom in this surrender. It's living the serenity prayer. It's living so many wonderful things from all the great wisdom traditions in the world. And it is life-changing. It is freeing. Now, I want to confess something else to you that's directly related to this. I am a firstborn, overly responsible person. If you will let me, I will take responsibility for you. I will, when you have a need and you want to share it with me, I want to do my best to meet it, to help you with it. There's part of me that's my identity as a dad, as a counselor, and pastoral ways. I talked about believing in free will and agency. That's because I like personal responsibility. I believe in it. But I don't stop there. And so I have struggled throughout my life in the being overly responsible, taking responsibility for things that are not my responsibility. That happens in relationships, that happens obviously with child rearing and grandchild rearing, and it's something I've grown in and learned over the years. But it's dangerous to take responsibility for things that are not ours. And when I tell you that when I, Amor, Fati, when I let go of that overly responsible, that extra responsibility that was not mine to begin with, I find freedom and joy that is childlike, that is, and you think about the freedom that comes when a child is safe and well cared for. My granddaughter, Sophie, is that way. There's a whole group of us that trip over ourselves trying to meet Sophie's needs and take care of her. And she is loved and she knows it. She is safe. Therefore, she is free. That is the freedom, that is the joy, that is the peace and serenity I experience when I love my faith. Yesterday, Sophie was taken by her parents to the fall festival in Weewalt, where we live. And she, I think for the first time, definitely on this scale, was introduced to bouncy castle.
Oh.
She's two and a bit, and fell in love. She loved it, and she jumped, and she jumped, and she jumped. And as bigger kids were coming in to jump and wrestle and do the things that bigger kids do, my daughter and my son, who were there with her, they were trying to protect her and keep the big kids from knocking her over. But whatever was happening there, she loved it. She just loved it. And when it came time to go, guess what? She was not ready to go. Now that relates to this human nature thing we do, which also is oftentimes not a love of faith, which is we try to maximize and extend and elongate pleasure and minimize and shorten pain, suffering. By the way, related to this, what did the Buddha say life is? Suffering. Life is suffering. And we're told that, right? Up front. Does that mean, I'm just asking the question, I'm not giving you the answer, I'm asking you the question. Does that mean if I don't love suffering, I don't love life? Does that mean that if I'm not accepting things as they are, I think I know better how they should be? I'm asking. You figure it out for yourself. I don't have any answers. When it came time for Sophie to go, Malia, my daughter, actually had to drag her out of the bouncy house.
Been there, done that.
And of course, as she's carrying her to the car, Sophie is crying and longing and reaching for the bouncy house. And guess what that was? Futile. Right? And to me, that is the greatest picture of this childlike, stubborn, fighting against what is, rather than living the Taoist philosophy of woo-wee. Effortless action, going with the flow, accepting, embracing, maybe even loving what is, and we get caught up in the great flow of life, that great river. We can spend our lives swimming against the stream or trying to swim across the current, rather than taking the actions that we take, which we all should be taking actions. I'm not saying we should be passive, but with what we're doing, it adds to the flow of life. It doesn't go against it. So we add our action to the great action of life. And there is a power in that. There's a flow. And that's why woo-wee is called effortless action. It's not that struggle of Sophie trying to get back to the bouncy house, and she has no, she's 2, right? She's about like that. Maybe a little bigger, but, and my daughter, is probably about like that, and she, is fit, works out, and she's 32 maybe or something. Anyway, 33. 33 versus 2 is not, there's no contest. And I have found, much to my chagrin, much to my consternation, that I am no match for life. I am no match for what is, except in the Viktor Frankl way of in here, of accepting what is, of embracing it, of getting to a place of loving it. I was talking to someone this past week about my spiritual journey, and I mentioned as a young person being taught certain things related to religion and morality and stuff, that I was taught that certain things were wrong, certain things were evil, or against God, or even however you want to phrase it. But I was also taught by maybe some of those same people, but maybe some others that were in that same paradigm. They would say, yet love everyone, give compassion to everyone. A phrase that goes with that kind of religion is hate the sin, love the sinner. That summarizes what I'm saying. And I was telling this person that as a young man, I went from that paradigm to not loving someone in spite of something about them, not tolerating, but truly loving. And that's what I'm talking about today. Not tolerating the challenges of life, not tolerating things that we really don't want them to be the way they are, but loving them, loving my fate. And I can tell some of you y'all are not down with this. I can tell, and that's fine. Keep on struggling, keep on fighting for that bouncy house. You'll get back there. Oh wait, you might not actually. This relates to something else I have found, and I think if you look at it long enough, you'll find it to be the case. I think any expert would tell you, a psychologist, any guru. Resistance only makes things worse. It only makes things bigger. It doesn't work. And it puts an emphasis, it puts it magnifies things. And so there's so many times where we are struggling when if we would just let go. We are actually drowning because we are fighting and we are trying to get to the surface and we're fighting in the current. If we would just relax, we would be saved. We would be taken to where we need to be. If I would get to the place, and I think y'all appreciate, with my background and my day job, what I do now, y'all appreciate this, that I would see it this way. What if when something that I really don't want to happen, or some challenge comes along, something I didn't expect, some direction, what if I just said, plot twist, and went with it? Because a story unfolding is happening. Faith, which so many people claim to have, is synonymous with the word trust. Do I trust life? Or if you believe in God or power, whatever, higher power, whatever you believe in, and at a minimum, the universe or life itself, do I trust? Any God, universe, world that I can understand makes me superior to that God, to that world, to that universe. I figured it out. I have the answers. I know it. But if I see it as a mystery, and I'm humbled by it, and I see my place in it, and I say, this is beyond me, and all the world's traditions is going to give me answers and tell me how to perceive it and what to do with it, but ultimately, it is a mystery. It is beyond me, and the best thing for me to do is to love it, to embrace it. Now, love is a verb, right? It is an action. It is a practice. So I'm not saying, in some mental exercise, I can suddenly decide I'm going to love everything and that I'm there. But if I practice this day in and day out and something comes up that I really don't want to happen, and I say, can I do anything about it? If not, then I'm going to love it. Can I do anything about it? If so, I'm still going to love it. I'm going to do what I can. And then this is the most important thing of all of this. I'm going to do all I can, but I'm going to let go, especially of my attachment and expectation to the outcome. Because I have nothing to do with that. Going back to my previous example, I'm going to write the best, most entertaining mystery thriller I can write. Every time. I have no control over how it's received. I have no control over how many people enjoy it or if they enjoy it. None. Why would I waste a second worrying about that? This is living the serenity prayer. And if we can get to a place of non-attachment to the outcome. And so everything I'm talking about does not argue for passivity. It does not say I don't do anything. I'm active. Remember, I believe in agency and personal responsibility. I'm going to do all I can. But I want a new awareness of how little that actually is, and that that's all I can do, and so I'm not going to be attached to the outcome. And I'm not going to try to do your part. I'm just going to do mine. And I'm going to surrender, and I'm going to embrace, and I'm going to get to a place of love, of Amor, Fati, of loving my fate. Because my fate, whatever my ancestors had to do with it, whatever my parents and my choices, and this is where I find myself. And so I want to take responsibility for everything that I did to get here. But I also want to acknowledge all the things that were out of my control that brought me here. And I'm standing before you right now telling you this right now, this is where I want to be. Because I love my fate. The Hebrew Bible has this short book in it about Esther. And Esther was in a situation where, as a Jewish woman in the, I believe, Persian Empire, she was favored, selected by the king to become the new queen. Previous queen displeased him because she didn't come when he called her to show her off to his drunken buddies. Thankfully, it didn't cost her her life, but it did cost her her crown. And so he decided to get a new queen, and brought all the eligible candidates, and he chose Esther, not knowing she was Jewish. And as these stories go, there was a plot to kill all the Jews. Haman or Haman, however you want to pronounce it, was displeased. He was very powerful, and he didn't like what was going on, and he said the best thing we can do is let's wipe out this whole group. And Esther's uncle came to her and said, guess what? You've got a choice. You can not let anyone know you're Jewish, because guess what? I'm the only one that does, and I won't say anything. Keep your mouth closed. You can save your life, and you can still be the queen. Or it might very well be that your fate is being in this position at this moment, and if you take a risk, reveal to the king who you are, you might save us all. It's your choice. Huge risk involved. Are you willing to take that risk? Do you say, my fate has brought me here, and I love it, and I'm going to go with it? Or are you going to pretend that this isn't what's going on? Who knows? Maybe you were born for such a time as this. I think in all of our lives, there's those moments. They may not be this dramatic, they may not be this, on this scale. But she saved her people. But I wonder how many times our actions have actually saved people that we don't have no idea about. A certain action of love that was just enough to keep someone going. Just enough to cause them to begin to Amor, Fati. I'm convinced the best life is loving our faith. And I hope I did a good enough job to at least get you to consider that might be the case. Thank you.